Hey, Soul Tribe, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I want to give a big thanks and shout out to those of you who keep showing up, who keep showing support, regardless of how spaced out these videos are. As some of you already know, I am in school full time, I work full time, and my main priority at this moment is to graduate, uh, finish my clinical hours so that I can have a successful career in psychotherapy. So I thank you for your patience, and I always feel gratitude when I get new subscribers and people to listen to my content. So, without further ado, let's get into my new article that was published actually September of last year. It's titled Agency, Assumptions, and Tip Drill: What Sex Work Teaches Us About Black Women's Autonomy. So, August of 2025, Jermaine Dupri released A Magic City, an American fantasy. It's a 5-part docuseries that pulls back the curtain on one of Atlanta's most talked about cultural institutions. Through interviews with dancers, sex workers, DJs, rappers, and scholars, the series maps not just the glamour of the club, but its grit, politics, and contradictions. Featured voices like Drake, Nelly, T.I., and intellectuals who weigh in on the club's impact. Among the most electric moments revisited in Nelly's Tip Drill music video was a flashpoint in conversations about Black women, agency, stigma, and representation. What most critics overlook is that Tip Drill was crafted for the club, not for choirs, not for collegiate institutions. Its presence in the cultural imagination tells us more about media power than it does about the women who appeared in it. For context, Tip Drill was released around 2003. I was 7 years old and I did not recall the uncut video until I went back to watch the music video on World Star Hip Hop as a 28-year-old adult at the time. And during this time, BT was uncut, and it was reserved for risque, scantily clad music videos and visuals that aired after midnight. And so it was for entertainment. I mean, it was entertainment for adults. Atlanta's club culture in the early 2000s helped propel hip hop forward and stamped its mark on hip hop history. The club was used as a tool to get rappers discovered, DJs recognized, and singles to top charts and airwaves. It literally was known as Black Hollywood. The early 2000s were a time when a fan could be standing just a couple of shoulders away from their favorite artist. As the club scene grew with consumption and celebrity appearances, so did the dollar signs, alongside the multitude of opportunities and controversy. Before moving forward, I want to define sex work. The term is broad and covers a range of occupations, some legal and others not. If you know, you know. This includes work such as stripping, hand modeling, or OnlyFans, sugaring, like Sugar Baby, peep show performances, phone operations, dominatrix, and acting in pornography. What's crucial to note is that sex work should never be confused with sex trafficking. They are completely separate realities, and conflating the two is both inaccurate and harmful. This diagram that I'm showing on the screen, often referred to as the hierarchy, is used within sex work activism to illustrate hierarchy and stigma inside the industry itself. I use it here to highlight the range of labor included under sex work, not to reinforce stigma. So, with that definition in place, it's easier to see where some of the critiques of Tip Drill missed the mark. When the video aired, many students of Spelman College labeled Nelly as misogynistic. They also labeled the women who appeared in the video as uneducated, and the entire production as damaging representation of Black womanhood. The assumption was that these women lacked agency over their bodies and choices, and that their presence on screen reinforced stereotypes. Yet, this framing reveals more about the lens of conservative feminism and respectability politics than it does about the lived realities or decisions of the women involved. So, to be clear, the worries and frustrations voiced at the time weren't unfounded. An overt representation of sex work and hypersexual imagery can absolutely contribute to the misrepresentation, objectification, and commodification of Black women and girls. This has a very real consequences, especially when viewed through the historical lens of the white racist gaze that has long labeled Black women as quote unquote fast or casted them into Jezebel stereotype simply for existing. In this way, Tip Drill did not risk reinforcing harmful narratives for audiences conditioned to see Black femininity only through a lens of hypersexualization. I unpacked this dynamic in more depth in my article and YouTube video that was titled Misunderstood by Design: The Jezebel Myth and Black Women's Liberation, where I examined how the Jezebel myth continues to distort how Black girls and women are perceived and treated. So, yes, these concerns are very, very valid, but they don't negate women's agency or the broader systemic issues at play. Agency means taking stock of both the gains and the cost of a choice and deciding to move forward anyway. Most of the women who appeared in Tip Drill understood exactly what they were stepping into, and if they didn't at first, they learned quickly. Some stayed because the benefits outweighed the risk for them. Critics often argue that if someone turns to sex work because of financial strain or systemic barriers, then it isn't really a choice. But the reality is that other jobs were available, such as waitressing, retail, food services. They didn't pay what a strip club did in the early 2000s when dancers could leave with thousands in a single night. The decision is still a choice, though, and therefore an act of agency. So to assume these women lacked education or couldn't think for themselves is inherently paternalistic. It implies they need others to dictate what's best for their lives. The irony is that some of these very dancers were Spelman students themselves, every bit as educated as the women critiquing them. It's possible that other jobs weren't truly available to many women at the time. So let's assume that for a moment. The question then becomes, why did so many stay for months or even years? If sex work were only about survival, wouldn't we expect a quicker exit plan? For example, dancing for a shorter period of time, stacking money, and then moving on to other professional opportunities. Yet countless stories from dancers tells us the opposite. Many stayed in the industry long term. This reality reveals something deeper. For some women, strip clubs weren't just a desperate last resort, they were strategic choices. The money was faster, the flexibility was greater, and in some cases, the sense of community was stronger than what mainstream jobs offered. Staying for years doesn't erase agency; it highlights it. These women didn't just stumble into sex work and forget to leave. They evaluated their circumstances, compared options, and decided that the strip club met their needs better than other alternatives. There's still a choice, even if it makes outsiders uncomfortable. Like every industry, sex work has its shadows. Fast fashion thrives on exploited garment workers. Tech companies like Apple and Tesla rely on cobalt mined in Congo under brutal conditions. Diamond dealers once traded in blood diamonds from Sierra Leone, and oil and gas corporations poison communities through environmental abuse. Sex work is no different. It has its cases of exploitation, abuse, assault, and the added weight of operating without consistent labor protections or regulations. And for that reason, We can't flatten the entire industry as empowering or liberating, but what we can say is that many women are still willing participants, exercising agency even within a system that is flawed, imperfect, and stigmatized. Further, if the real concern is that women with limited resources have few options, then our attention must shift from policing women to acknowledging the harms of capitalism, the system that manufactures poverty in the first place. It is capitalism that deserves critique, not solely the women choosing how to survive within it. While I understand the concerns about how Black girls and women are represented, we cannot keep placing the responsibility of protecting the image of an entire community onto individual women. For the thousandth time, we are not a monolith. The truth is, if Black women are being filtered through the white gaze, which is shaped by racism, misogyny, and the logistics of white supremacy, it doesn't matter whether we're sitting in cubicles in corporate America, attending an Ivy League institution, working a drive through window, teaching ballet, or dancing on a pole. The gaze will read us through the same violent lens. Kamala Harris was literally accused of sleeping her way to vice president, as if her decades of work, credentials, and political strategy didn't exist. This isn't a Black woman problem that needs to be pathologized or policed. This is a racist, misogynistic problem that deserves to be diagnosed for what it really is, which is a system of oppression that refuses to see Black women as full, complex, and autonomous beings. This is where the conversation has to expand. The problem is not simply the dancers on screen or the rappers making music. It's the larger machinery deciding what images circulate in the first place. Media outlets, record labels, and entertainment executives determine what gets funded, what gets greenlit, and what sells. They are the ones curating the lens through which Black women are most often seen. When only one kind of representation is consistently promoted, it narrows the public's imagination of Black womanhood, regardless of the reality. The real issue is not the existence of sex work or sexual expression, but the lack of diversity in representation and the power structures that benefit from keeping it that way. Even if Nelly's own imprint was attached to this project, the reality is that videos like Tip Drill only reach audiences when major label executives decide they're worth funding and distributing. Whether Nelly himself pushed it or the system did, the real issue isn't the presence of sex workers in the video. The issue is how their agency gets erased in the public conversation and how narrow representations of Black women are recycled for profit. I may sound naive, but Black women should never be expected to fit a particular mold in order to be respected or treated fairly. It's inhumane. The onus is not on the Black woman to shrink or sanitize herself, but on the people and the systems that choose to treat her unjustly because of how she presents herself. Then decide to generalize all Black women based on the actions of a few. Who is truly immoral here? The woman choosing to live in her fullness, or the society that punishes her for it? And as long as white supremacy, bigotry, and misogyny exist, presentation will never be protection. Whether in a blazer with a student handbook or on a stage in a strip club, Black women are read through the same distorted lens. The reality only highlights why liberation must be found in multiplicity and not in respectability. And as I type this, I understand the painful dichotomy of having to quote unquote play the game in order to survive. On one hand, we know the responsibility for oppression lies squarely on the oppressor. And on the other hand, because of the world we live in, many of us are forced to blend in, to shrink ourselves, and conform to rigid containers to avoid exile or rejection. And this survival strategy has existed in the Black community for hundreds of years, from code switching to respectability politics. And while it has helped us endure, and it also comes at the cost of authenticity. Recognizing this doesn't mean shaming those who play the game. It means naming the conditions that make the game necessary in the first place. In conclusion, you cannot subjugate people into acting how you think they should act according to your personal disposition, cognitive dissonance, and reality. Forcing all women into one moral code is also oppressive. A womanist and liberation lens says multiple pathways to empowerment exist. Liberation is about honoring each woman's right to define her own expression, whether that's on a pole, in a pulpit, or a boardroom, and giving them the resources necessary so that they would have to make personally unfavorable choices. If we accept that the real issue lies not with the women in the videos, but with the systems that profit from narrowing their representation, then the path forward cannot be about silencing or policing those women. Instead, it must be about expanding these possibilities of how Black women are seen, honored, and represented. Liberation is not found in demanding that every depiction fit a singular mold of respectability, but in affirming the multiplicity of Black womanhood, professional and sensual, spiritual and secular, in corporate offices and on dance floors. True freedom is found in recognizing that no one expression cancels out another, and that our wholeness comes from holding space for all of it. Anyway, thank you. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about the whole controversy of the Tip Drill video? What type of memories it brought up for you? I was born in 96. So when this video dropped, I believe 7 or 8 years old. So where were you during this time? What were your thoughts? Do you even remember watching the video? Because I don't even remember watching it. Um, yeah, I want to hear from you guys. Comment below. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, share my videos. I appreciate you guys. And I'll be sure to upload the next video pretty soon. Have a good one.